Welcome to the Wrexham Coffee Matchup. I'm Dave.
And I'm Courtney. Each week, we'll take a few minutes to catch up on the latest news from Wrexham. From matchups to transfers, on and off the pitch, we'll share our takes on it all.
So grab a coffee and join us.
Hey, Dave, welcome back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. The last week and a half has gotten a little hectic, and so we have a lot to catch up on, I think.
We do. It's been the international break for our boys. Not an international break for us, just busy lifetime. Where should we start?
Well, since the last time we talked, there was the match against Millwall, the last league match 2 weeks ago. Did you get a chance to watch the match? Did you follow it?
I didn't watch it. I tried to watch it. I logged into my iFollow page and there was a button to listen. So I at least got to listen to Mark, Mia, and Andy, but I didn't get to watch. And then You reminded me that there are some strange TV rules. So I read the email that came a couple of days before that, and I understand nothing. I understand somehow even less than when you told me that it was expected that I wasn't going to be watching it. I have no idea, but yeah, I listened.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wish they had figured out what the rules were and told us before the season started and they auto-renewed our subscriptions. Mostly we just want to have the opportunity to watch the matches if we can. I was lucky enough, my brother, who's a professional soccer coach, was here visiting. And so he sat down with me and we watched on Paramount Plus. And so I had a little bit of American soccer coach commentary in my ear as the match went on, which was a nice different perspective. I think I spent more time explaining to him who everybody was than he explained to me what he was seeing on the field. But it was an interesting, fun way of watching the match. We've done that before, and I look forward to more chances in the future to do that. So I was able to watch the whole match. And first of all, very exciting that we got our first league win. And not just
Finally.
A first league win, but a very, very clear win. Like we came out and we unlike the Southampton game, we came out dominating in the first half. But here we were able to keep that momentum going through the whole game, even though it was a very, very physical match. Have you noticed just from looking at things how much more physical the Championship League seems to be than League One or League Two? It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I maybe that's the level, you run harder, you hit stronger. I don't know. But that's just, that's definitely the case with a bloody nose from Kiefer Moore on his goal. And then a big injury from Danny Ward at the end of the game. He was down for a solid several minutes.
I think it was close to 15 when you looked at it. That was a brutal looking injury. I had flashbacks to the Paul Mullen injury against Chelsea back in San Diego a couple of years ago. When he
punctured the lung, right?
Right, when he punctured the lung, it was Danny Ward was on the ground physically reacting, and then at some point apparently he even lost consciousness while he was on the ground. So the pain must have been so intense. But I was impressed. So I mean, one, the Moore goal where he walked away with a bloody nose. It was a beautiful goal. And then he walked away with a bloody nose. They stopped the match. I was convinced that they were going to take him off and that they would bring on a substitute.
Because you can't play while you're actively bleeding.
Or if you have a head injury, they need to take you off. And he came back on, the tissue stuffed up his nose, and played the entire 90 plus minutes and just kept going. I am just so impressed by him. And it's interesting because at one point a few weeks ago, the comment was made by one of the commentators that Kiefer Moore wasn't brought on to score goals. He was brought on to be the big guy. And now he's had over 5 matches, 4 goals for us. And so he seems to be the goal scorer at the moment. And he's got the fight that I think is like the whole team is going to gel around his energy is what's going to happen going forward. But the Danny Ward injury was tough to watch because he had been playing very well. We were holding off. Millwall was really fighting back. They really wanted to score. They really wanted to make a mark on us and show that we're just the Wrexham boys, right? Sure. And so when Danny got injured, Arthur, who hadn't warmed up, hadn't played, 90 some odd minutes into the match, had to come in and do 15 minutes of really serious defending
Yeah.
against Millwall, who had a chance to bring, they had multiple chances to get the ball in the goal. And
Well, and
he
at that point had 15, 20 minutes extra time to rest, to
to rest and
recharge.
to recharge. But Arthur he just went in there fighting. And he reminded us, not that we had any doubt, that he is as good a goalie as Danny Ward is. And so now, with Danny out for the next possibly up to 6 months,
Wow.
Arthur's now back in the number one position, and he's going to have to step up every week and just show that he has what it takes, which I have no doubt that he does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure he's eager to make that name for himself as well. Last season he had some other offers and decided that he wanted to stay on with Wrexham. So I'm sure that this is, a great opportunity for him. So
Last time we talked, we had a pretty extensive conversation. Ollie Watch 2025.
Ollie
And
Palmer,
then,
what's next?
and within 48 hours of us talking, we had very clear message as to what was next. So where's Ollie now?
Ollie has signed with Swindon, who is in League Two. He made his debut a couple of days later. I think you watched some of that match, didn't you?
It was interesting to watch when they announced that Ollie was going to Swindon,
Hmm.
because in the days up to the announcement, there were rumors of 5 or up to 10 clubs that were interested in signing him, both in League One and in League Two.
Hmm.
And when he went to Swindon, that wasn't really on the radar for a lot of
Okay.
people. But they put out a lot of sort of promotional videos when they announced his signing, and he went into great detail as to why he chose Swindon.
Hmm.
And it came down to a combination of factors of like looking for a team that has an ethic similar to his and is looking to, get a momentum going and needs someone like him, but also is
Yeah.
closer to home. And so now he's playing for a team that's maybe a little over an hour away from where he lives. So he can then spend time with his family. His kids are still young, but gets to come in and do that kind of football that he loves to play, which is to come
Yeah.
in there and make an impact. And he even scored his first goal during the trophy match against Reading, which ironically was on the other end of the field was Jack Marriott, who also scored his first goal for Reading. So it's interesting to see that a lot of our players who have left over the last summer are now starting to make an impact on their teams in League One and League Two, which I love to see.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, you mentioned geography. I'm going to take us back a little bit and see if I remember this with my really terrible memory. Okay, so Ollie Palmer, his family is in the London area,
Yes. Yeah.
and he was playing for Wrexham. The first time that you went to see a Wrexham match would have been in January of 2023. And
Correct.
didn't you fly into London and you drove up to Wrexham?
I did. I flew into London and I drove to Wrexham in the middle of a terrible rainstorm. And that 240, 250-mile drive took me about 6.5 hours. It was an insane drive. And to think of doing that once or twice a week in order to spend time with your family, even just on a Sunday, is crazy. I think he estimated that in the 3.5 years that he played at Wrexham, he drove about 16,000 miles.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
he was also very clear that it was worth it, and he loved the team, and he had the best experience. And if you look at sort of the post mortem of his leaving, I think that the outcry of support for him as a person and as a player way outweighs the outcry of the other players that we've seen leaving. And so the positivity just seems to have carried with him.
Yeah.
So kind of look forward to seeing him do well, and make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's no question. You definitely could see that his heart was there. Um, but I think geographically, yeah, that's going to be a lot nicer for him to just be an hour away.
And we still like
from
to
his
see him on
family.
TV, right? Let's get him on television.
Of course, that would be fantastic in any way possible. Okay, so speaking of transfer window news, the last time we talked was just before the transfer window closed. And now we are not only after the window closing, but the 25-person roster has also been released. Do you want to talk us through some of
Yeah,
the highlights?
so we've been floating names back and forth between the two of us of who we
Hmm.
expected to move on and who we hoped would stay. And I don't think we were surprised at all that we saw Jacob Mendy, Tom O'Connor, George Evans all accept positions with new teams in the last few days of the transfer window. I think the one that was a little surprising to me was that after the transfer window closed, they announced that Owen O'Connell had left the team as well. And Owen
Hmm.
he had minutes in the championship this season so far, and he's still continued to make a mark. But I think that with the last few players that Parkinson brought in as part of his new team, that there just wasn't a space for him. And it's sad to see him go. I hope he finds himself in another team. All the others got new positions and have already started to play. So Mendy has a team. O'Connor's on a new team. George Evans got a team. Jordan Davies signed recently, and he had left earlier in the summer. So it's good to see them all. I think I actually saw on social media this week that one of the fans on Blue Sky has started a chart of all those released from the team and where they're playing and how they're doing. And so I'm impressed with that skill.
I
I don't
saw
know if I could
that.
keep that up.
I saw
So
that and I thought, oh, that would be really great if I didn't have to update it manually.
yes, or work and in your case raise a child, right?
Well, minor details.
Minor details. But I love the dedication that those former players, I think that's the feeling that you and I had, is that we came to really love these people.
Yeah.
And everyone acknowledges that football is brutal with the lengths of time that people spend with teams. But to kind of grow with them and watch them and then spread out and be able to watch them and check in on them in their other teams. And if I happen to be in London, if someone's playing, I would probably find a way to go see them, just to keep an eye on them, because we want them all to do well. Because I think it comes back to that ethos that Parkinson has. It's like the team is a culture,
Yeah.
right? And when you leave the team, you just take that culture with you to wherever else you go. It's not that you're going to lose the culture. And so
Hmm.
I love that feeling.
And I think that's something that has really been clearly brought in to the documentary as well, which, is how we started following the team, how we knew about the team in the first place. And you really get a sense of that by watching it. And it's also, of course, especially at the beginning, that was the big part of how we got to know the players. And then now, we watch different interviews and we follow people on social media, and there are other avenues, of course, as there always were before, to learn about people. But yeah, I think it's really clear, that ethos, as you say, this culture that is really a part of the team.
So there was one stat that I think I shared with you by text that
Hmm.
surprised you a little bit,
I
is
did.
that there were 10 players who were part of back-to-back-to-back promotions. So that's 10 players out of how many that have ever played for Wrexham or any English football team that have the unique stance that they were back to back to back. And of those four, after the transfer windows of those 10, sorry, after the transfer window is closed, there are only four left with the team. And so Max Cluworth, Ryan Barnett, Elliot Lee, and Andy Cannon, who's currently injured, are the last four members of that back to back to back crew. Which is kind of is a little astounding. And then if we add just the back to back promotions from League Two, we could then add Arthur, Okonkwo, and McLean. So it's a very small group now of these people that we've come to grow and love over the last several years that are now integrating in with the now 14 new signings from this summer. So we'll be curious to see how the last 2 weeks has helped them kind of gel together. And
Hmm.
then in the coming weeks, when we have a nice run of matches, how they shake out, and what we see is them coming together as a new team.
Although I do have to say, I have to point out one thing. you said there are only 4 of them left. But I would almost see it as there are still 4 of them left. To go back to back to back from National League to League Two to League One to the championship is that is a huge breadth of skill, of the type of play, of all of these different things. And for there still to be 4 of that group, if you think about who would still be playing when you go from the National League now to the championship. So I think it's pretty impressive. I would say still 4 and not only 4.
We'll go with your still 4.
But we can
remember that your still 4 includes superstar Max Cleworth, who started at the academy. So he is the academy player who's made his way and played on first team every season since he's done that, which is just amazing. And he's really shining this year as well too. So
when you were telling me, okay, there are these 4, I was going through, I was trying to rack my brain to see who it could be. And I got a couple of the names. And one of the names I was thinking was Max Cleworth. And I just didn't remember if he had started playing on the team when they were in the National League versus still being in the academy.
I think he had a few appearances that first year, just enough to consider that he had been part of that squad for that year.
Yeah. Harking back to other news that we've talked about, in my attempt to do some pro bono marketing work for the Spud Brothers from the last Cup match, during that same episode, we talked about gold jerseys, right? This was the match with the Sheffield Wednesday. Was this the same match, or am I confusing these in my mind?
No, I believe after the Sheffield Wednesday match, then Rob put out a call to raise money for the Sheffield Supporters Trust.
But was Spud Brothers part of Sheffield Wednesday, or was that the Cup match? And I'm just totally confusing them.
That's a very good question.
I think I just wanted to say Spud Brothers, but that's not the point of this at all. The point was actually, yes. So Sheffield Wednesday, before the match, there was kind of not a call, but there was a post on social media saying, hey, Wrexham supporters, if you wear last year's gold kit, that will be a way to show solidarity with Sheffield Wednesday fans because they are in need of new ownership. And then you shared the story about Rob selling these other gold kits. So I'll let you tell the rest of the story there. And then I think there's an update.
Yeah. So as we briefly mentioned last time, so Rob put out a call on social media that for 4 days, the 50% of the sales of any of the remaining gold kits from last season would be donated to the Sheffield Supporters Trust. And at the end of the 4 days, they announced that they were able to donate £37,500 to the trust. And then they turned and matched the other half of the proceeds to a hospital in Wrexham. So they sold £75,000 worth of discounted gold gear last year in that 4-day window, and gave all the proceeds away to 2 very important causes. So I think that's a wonderful show that, yes, we hear about the Hollywood owners and Disney FC and all these things, but I mean, the heart is still absolutely beating on the owners, and supporting the community and recognizing the history of the team, which I love.
You had mentioned at the time that there was some, like, that Rob got a little bit of flack on social media for this. What was the kind of feeling after this announcement, after the 4 days?
I think the flack when it comes on social media goes away as soon as people spout their flack, if that's a word, spout their flack. Because really we focused on, we had a good match. There was a nice solid draw between the 2 teams. And then it turned out that we did something good for that community. And they're now going to continue to fight, and they need new owners, and no one wants to see that team go away. They've been around for 150 years almost. I mean, it's something that we want to keep that tradition going. So I think it's been nothing but positive in the post. And I think that's what happens. We hear a lot of the complaints, and we hear a lot of the don't support them on the pitch, only off the pitch kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like we're all there to just make sure that these communities thrive. So we're back to action this week. The international break felt like it went on for forever. For 6 weeks, one Saturday without a game and news to catch up on. So this coming Saturday, we're back at the racecourse for the Queen's Park Rangers. Queen's Park Rangers is a very solid long-term championship team that had several years of Premier League experience as well. They're struggling at the beginning of this season, so their record currently matches ours with just one win and one draw, but they're down in 18th place because of their goal deficit. They did have their first win of the season at the last match against Charlton, which must have been a very excited cross-London match. So it's interesting to learn about these new teams that we talked about. Like, there's so many new teams that we get to know, so that by the second half of the season, we'll have a sense of who they are and how they play, so that when we play them again, I think we'll be even more invested as we go forward. So that's coming up this Saturday on August 13th. And then we have an away match in Norwich City on the 20th. So we'll be curious to see how that goes as well.
And then a couple days later, on Tuesday, the 23rd, they finally announced we'll have our third round cup match versus Reading. And that'll be a home match as well.
Home match. And there's been a lot of people reading in the rule books of the EFL that apparently Jack Marriott could be eligible to play in that game. So
could he?
Could be. So if he ends up starting or coming off the bench, then he would be making his return to the racecourse for the first time since he left.
Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for joining us this week. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
You can also email us at wxmcoffeematchup@gmail.com. All one word. That's wxmcoffeematchup@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at wxmcoffeematchup.
From the cop to your coffee cup, that's all for today's Wrexham Coffee Matchup. Keep it brewing, keep it red, and as always, up the town.